Okay, I think it is 6:30. So let's get started. If anybody has it, there is a sign-in sheet going around. And if we have any questions.
Slowing it down.
What's going on?
She's slowing it down.
You're slowing it down. We've got a whole another hour to get it filled out. So let's just make sure everybody gets to see it. And at the end of the meeting, if you'll go ahead and leave your time cards behind, we bring them back and recycle them each time, so that it's here. I'm Maria Wolf. I work with the city of Albuquerque, and I'm your homeless innovations officer, and I'm your facilitator for today's meeting. We try to start on time, we try to end on time, and we do have an agenda that hopefully we have enough copies for everybody. And the meeting purpose is pretty clear on here. And the only thing that we really do go through each meeting is communication guidelines, because that's one of my things that I like to do. So our communication guidelines are that we're hard on the issues, easy on the people. We listen to learn and seek to understand. So we know that sometimes people use the wrong grammar or use the wrong word. We want you to try to understand what they're trying to say instead of kind of getting stuck on that part. We respect the speaker. We also respect the listener. This is also called like step up, step back. So that if you had a chance to ask a couple questions, we'd like you to step back and let somebody else ask their questions. Stay on topic so we can get through our agenda and really get through the issues. And be kind. And we try to have some fun because we're here every month. And the last thing I usually ask is, do you have a communication or community guideline that you like to use that isn't represented here that we should add? Got it? All right. All right. Thanks, guys. Oh,
sweet. Hi, everyone. My name is Ilan. I work with Maria in the Department of Housing and Homelessness. This is me. I'm the Homeless Public Outreach and Volunteer Coordinator. So I'll be helping to facilitate these if ever we're missing Maria. A part of the communication guidelines, one that I introduced in my first meeting was being comfortable in a space that might feel tense for each other. Just acknowledging the strengths that each of us bring to the table. And as you're sharing your perspective, there's always more space for others to be introduced. And I would say that that space is important too, for just peaceful and constructive disagreement. So I think that's all possible. That was what I touched on in the first meeting. And this meeting, bringing forward some of the new perspectives and exposures to the department as I'm getting up and running. I think that open-mindedness has been a really great theme to hone in on and just dial into. You know, there's a lot of creativity, innovation, and ideas that we can really apply to make a difference. And I think that with the right space to welcome new ideas and also to just keep an open-minded perspective. And so that's one thing I'd like to contribute to this meeting. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Okay. So next thing we're going to do is just go around and have introductions. So let's start. Hey, John, are you up for starting tonight?
Okay.
Introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, I'm John Comstock, Parkland Hills Neighborhood Association and Parkland Village, which is a virtual village helping people that need a place.
Mr. John, thanks, Wally.
Wally Book, also from Parkland Hills.
Son?
Donna Strong, Parkland Hills resident. Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah.
Commander Josh Richard, Southeast Area Command. Sorry I'm late.
So you will not let you were very on time.
Yes.
I'm Laura Keem, Senior Crime Prevention Specialist with APD.
And
Mike Kuchowski, I'm with the North Queen neighborhood, so way north of here. But I've been engaged with homeless folks on the streets for 13 and a half years. And I did 7 shifts during the fit count.
look at you, well done. Let's go back to
James.
Steve real quick.
Steve Sacco, board member, Elder Homestead. And do you have any extra handouts?
Yeah, let me give you that stuff right here. Everybody else get one, you guys didn't get them back. Okay, so you got zero, okay, but you need one, please. See if I can find that one. Okay, Candace, Sandra Correa, president of Elder Homestead and vice president of D6 Coalition.
Patty Wilson, past president of Vicky Hills and treasurer of District 6.
James Shanley, Mark Twain Neighborhood Association.
Robert Houtman, heading home for them director for Gateway Women's Facility and the new medical research facility.
Super.
I'm Katie Collins. I'm a clinical social worker and the interim director for the Gateway Receiving Area.
I'm Samuel C., code enforcement specialist, supervisor for the southeast area.
You wanna go back over here?
Hi, I'm Jennifer McDonald. I'm the Gateway Operations Officer for the Gateway Network. Jennifer Martinez, I'm a forensic case manager with Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office.
Danielle Smith, I am a forensic case manager with Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office. I'm also part of the Senate.
Janet Simon, president of Parkland Hills Neighborhood Association.
I am Christy Wyrick. I am a Kirtland Air Force Base key support liaison, and I am also the deputy base commander's wife.
That's me. Colonel David Wyrick, deputy base commander at Kirtland. We both reside on Kirtland, so we consider ourselves part of your community.
Eva Blaylock, I'm currently Public Affairs, and I'm also president of the Silver Hill University Neighborhood Association.
Matthew Cox, I'm an urban planner for council services at the city.
I'm Terrell Honecker. I'm the program manager for homelessness outreach for Hope Works. I also previously used to be part of the Gateway Project as a community health.
Buddy, we split, that was super. So, we have a presentation tonight from Matthew Cox. And what I thought we would do is go ahead and let him do his presentation, ask questions, and then Matt, I know you probably have lots going on. You're welcome to stay afterwards, or you're welcome to exit. Okay.
Hey everyone, good to see folks, familiar faces as well. So as some of y'all might have heard, or actually let me just gauge who is in the room. Who has heard of O2469 and big zoning changes? All right, cool. So it's like half and half. All right. So a couple of months ago, council passed a new ordinance for IDO that changed the way we look at appeals and the way people can submit appeals to neighborhood associations, as well as some updates to our use table and basically infill zoning within certain parts of the city. And so I'm going to go through that all in detail. I'm going to try and get through it kind of quick so we can actually have conversation, do Q&A. I do want to remind people I am not a counselor. I am also not a lawyer. And so I am a planner. And I live in a weird theoretical bubble in many ways, but we're going to stick to regulation tonight. So yeah. All right, so Council Bill O2469. If y'all have been around Albuquerque for a little bit and have been active within the neighborhood associations, you will know all about the IDO or Integrated Development Ordinance, which is what typically people call the zoning code. O2469 is not in the document yet, but will come in when we do our biennial update in this next coming year. So real quick, what is zoning? Basically the 5th and 14th Amendments is where this lives in the federal world, but in the local world, we have our comprehensive plan, which is essentially a roadmap for the city. And that is the should, or our policy, our goals, et cetera, where we want to like direct the city to head to. The IDO is the shalls. That is the regulation that should be influenced by the comprehensive plan. And that is a loaded statement because it is a political world. And so, but we'll get into that later possibly. But essentially the comprehensive plan should influence the IDO and any changes that go into that. And that establishes building height, what uses can be on properties, landscaping standards, parking, a slew of things. It is a 700 or more page document and keeps getting bigger. Tonight, we're gonna go through a number of the changes have to do with our centers and corridors. Now, these were identified within our comprehensive plan and were established back in 2017. And so the IDO brings in these centers and adds different entitlements to them, and then the corridors as well. And so tonight we'll mostly be focusing on Main Street, which is the MS pink one, and then PT, which is the black. And so premium transit, just so everyone is clear, where that comes in the IDO is where you typically see an ART station. So all the like mid-block or middle of the road bus stations along Central, and then heading up Louisiana. All right, so the biggest changes for the housing code happened within these buffers and these polygons. And so they are main streets and they are premium transit areas. Just so we are clear, it is Central, that is the horizontal one, 4th Street, which is the major vertical one, and then it goes Bridge over to the west side, Louisiana up to Uptown, and then Broadway, or South Broadway to be more exact. Yes?
Sure. So San Pedro, I believe.
San Pedro, you are correct. Yes, sorry. Premium Transit, Louisiana, San Pedro Main Street. Thank you. So the first change within this ordinance, and I think we're going to go by how it showed up in the ordinance. Basically, what this did was remove city projects, city funded projects, city activities, etc., from being able to be appealed, whether that is a private citizen, a neighborhood association, whatever. Once the city project goes through the approval process and meets all the different regulations that the city has put on it, it can no longer be appealed. And that was the decision brought forth by the council. But yeah. Does anyone have any questions on this?
Don't get me started.
Me and Patty know each other. You're good. So the big housing change, what this did was in the same map we saw earlier, made multifamily townhomes and duplexes permissive within all residential and mixed use zones. You'll notice what we call the allowable uses table. Within the IDO, it is like 5 or 6 pages, and it is broken down by a slew of different uses from warehouse to artisan manufacturing. But at the very top, it is all residential and kind of your more sensitive uses. So that would be maybe like community facilities, like a community center as well, and a restaurant or something. But in this case, we are only focusing on residential and basically filled in the gaps where we didn't see permissiveness already existing for duplexes, townhomes, and multifamily. And so within these corridors, basically, you can build now on any lot as long as you adhere to the different dimensions, design regulations, etc. And so in many ways, if you have like a micro lot that you might see downtown that's like 5,000 square feet, it's really hard structurally to go up an infinite amount of height because of that size. And so there are still certain regulations, certain setbacks, etc., that keep that building there. But if you have an amazing architect, maybe one out of Tokyo, you can probably figure the vertical aspect out. And so I think the most intense one is this multifamily aspect. And so that is, typically townhomes, duplexes, of course, stick to the 2-family detached. Townhomes, everyone knows it when they see it, just a slew of different attached single family homes that have narrow lots generally. And yeah, kind of achieve a density that we are hoping for within these transit corridors, but the dwelling multifamily went above and beyond what you typically see within these corridors now. So now you can have 3 or more units on a lot, and it can have a single entrance and apartment buildings basically. And so within those buffers, those are all permissive now. The other really big difference, particular to multifamily dwelling units, is that council approved this language on the right side that says there shall be no building height limit for any dwelling, multifamily structure or premises. So essentially, sky's the limit. That is not the case for duplexes or townhomes or even single family homes. They still are have to be regulated by the general zoning provisions of whatever zoning district they are within. So if you're in an R1 zone, you can build up to like 26 feet or something. If you're in MXT zone, depending on where you're at in proximity to corridors or other single family homes, it goes between 36, 48, etc. And we can go into those details later as well. Yes.
Yeah, I saw, it said exception south of Central Avenue and west of Rio Grande.
Yes.
Is that the Rio Grande?
Apologies, that is, I skipped fully over that. So, yes, exemption does not apply south of Central Avenue and west of the Rio Grande.
The river.
Yes, the river, and not, and essentially, Councilor Pena, who is District 3 on the west side, proposed this amendment, kind of at the final hour of the night that this ordinance was being heard, and it was not comfortable with the multifamily aspect, coming into her district, and so she made this change and it got approved. And so when you look at where these, let's go back to a map to make it as easy as possible. Go to a bigger one. Yeah, so everything, yeah, south of Central here and west of the river. So bridge, that multifamily permissiveness does not apply. And the area south of Central, it does not apply. As soon as you hop over Central back into Louis or Councilor Sanchez or Councilor Baca's district, you can start building multifamily again within R1 or any of the zones that changed here.
Oh, so east of the river
East of the river is still permissive multifamily.
on both sides.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So south of Central on the right side of the river.
Anything that's in District 3 is excluded.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, any other questions about all that we just went through, building height, residential permissiveness? All good? So, yeah, we'll have time for discussion, I promise. There's a lot of random changes.
I have a feeling it's too late for discussion.
So another change that happened, are people familiar with neighborhood edges? Yes, I know you are, yeah. So essentially, neighborhood edge came into the IDO in 2017, and it was a way to protect an intensity on a lower density land use. So like your single family residential, you don't want here's your house and you don't want another skyscraper right next to it. So it requires the step back buffer, depending on where you are in the city, of either if you're within the corridors that are shown on that map, it is a 50-foot step back, and within that 50 feet, you can only build up to 30 feet in height at maximum. If you're outside those corridors, it can be, it has to be 100-foot setback, and within that 100 feet, you can only build up to 30 feet. As soon as you're outside that buffer, you can go as high as your base zoning district allows. Or in the case of this change, to the sky if you're with a multifamily unit and in the corridor. Now the change that happened is that the only the only zone districts that regulated that step down were RML, RMH, and mixed use and non-residential zones. Because the housing changes brought in every single residential district to allow multifamily within the corridors, which essentially means height. Then Councilor Feeblecorn proposed this amendment that brought in all residential districts to be to have this protection for our low density zone districts. So essentially, if you are next to a zone that is about to build 100-foot setback and it is your single family home, if you're within or 100-foot in height, if you're within this corridor, they have to have that step back 50 feet before they can go up to the heavens. That was a little confusing and convoluted. Does anyone have questions, or did I somehow make it crystal clear?
Just to clarify, protected lot in this case would be like a single family privately owned lot, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Also the night of the hearing, there were a couple new amendments as well for parking reduction. And so within this map was too complicated to even try and make, so apologies. If you remember back at the earliest slide where we said centers and corridors and just keeping those in mind, UC stands for Urban Center, AC stands for Activity Center, EC Employment Center, and MS Main Street, and then MT is Major Transit. All of these are different designations that were created through the comprehensive plan and brought into the IDO for their different mapping boundaries. And so first on the centers, the UCAC, EC, and MS, parking went up from a 20% reduction of what is required generally when you do a development to a 50% reduction. I do not know the parking numbers off my head, so this is going to be arbitrary, but if I was to build a restaurant and we needed 4 seats per table and we had 3 tables in there, and so I typically need 12 parking spaces. If I was in one of these centers, then I could bring it down to 6 spaces. Simple as. Now, major transit, that was a little more complicated because it brings in the areas of change. There are, within the appendix of the comprehensive plan, it kind of lays out the equation that created areas of change. And essentially, within the equation, just to boil it down to its simplest form, single family zone districts were kept out of areas of change and are considered areas of consistency. Places like MX zones or non-residential zones, or areas within other small mapped areas like our metropolitan redevelopment areas, or if you're within a center, oftentimes that zone district could be considered areas of change. And there is a lot of policy that points development and growth to areas of change. So within major transit corridors, which would be, actually, I don't think Gibson is, I don't think Gibson is a single corridor, which blows my mind still. But places like Manal, Montgomery, Candelaria, etc., those would be considered major transit and generally have a bus line on them, and that's how they got designated that. Now, Central would be a premium transit corridor, which means they have a certain frequency of buses coming all the time. So, which is like a 15-minute frequency is what designates you that kind of level. Again, crystal clear. All right, so the other parking reduction came to premium transit. Essentially, the justification here, the policy is that if you have frequent enough bus service and an infrastructure that serves that, you should have development that caters towards using public infrastructure. So within the premium transit areas, parking reduction went to 60%. Yeah, simple as. The premium transit areas are, again, where art stations exist. All right. On to, I believe, the appeals world. I'm going to skip over these slides. Also, does everyone know planning department got a new website and an update? Cool. If you haven't checked it out, it's great. It is a lot simpler to see where new development is coming into the city. And they break it down by a slew of different distinctions. Sam, I'm sure you could talk more about it. It's like business licenses, inspections, building permits, applications. So they haven't been able to bring in all the old files yet to the new system, so you can't see things that happened even as of last year. But moving forward, if there's anything new in your neighborhood, you'll be able to see it a lot quicker. So just wanted to throw a plug in for the planning department. Also makes my life a lot easier. All right, I'm just gonna go to the changes real quick. So the first appeals change. Basically this comes from some counselors' concerns around appeals on the west side, typically near the petroglyph area. And so it added another person or organization that can demonstrate that its property rights or other legal rights have been specially and adversely affected by the decision, but in no circumstances shall a person's use of public lands constitute standing. Nothing in this section. And then this was amended, this next language amended in the night of to reflect some of the changes we saw in the IDO a couple of years ago. Nothing in this section shall be construed to change any rights or obligations related to Indian nations, tribes, or pueblos as established in this IDO, or to otherwise limit tribal standing. And essentially that brought in an amendment we saw a couple of years ago that required public notification within major public open space, the petroglyphs, and I know I'm forgetting another piece of land for our different tribes and pueblos within the area. All must be notified when development is happening in close proximity to those lands. But yeah. The next who may appeal, and so I assume this is the one that is going to be, or one of the more pertinent, and we can talk about it in a deeper way right now too if y'all want. So the new language that came in, I'm just going to read the whole thing again. Distances for neighborhood associations are based on the boundary on file with the Office of Neighborhood Coordination at the time the application for decision related to the subject property was accepted as complete. Additionally, for standing to appeal, a neighborhood association must submit a petition in support of the appeal signed by a majority of all property owners or tenants located within 660 feet of the application site, inclusive of all rights of way. Now, this does not remove a person's ability to appeal. If they find harm or can prove harm from that development project, a singular person can still go out. But a neighborhood association has to go and communicate with the properties within 660 feet of an application site and get a majority of those people to sign a petition. So like the explanation says, signatures from owners or tenants of 51 lots if 100 lots are within 660 feet of the subject property. Any questions on this one? Yes.
There has been discussion about, are we talking about a hard copy signed petition? Or is the potential for a Google Doc poll a possibility? Because I know some of the newer neighborhood associations with people that have more media savvy than I poll their members and get like a 50% response rate, which is phenomenal. So this is one of the things I will probably be talking to Councilor Rogers about next month as another possible amendment to this to include other ways to petition or to define exactly what petition means.
I don't see any issue with that. As long as you can prove the addresses and have a column for that, I think digital is fine. Yeah. Yeah, because like I'm thinking of like Adobe and Google and all those, you can do an online signature pretty easily. So yeah, I'd say go for it. there's no rules to say you can't.
Okay.
So, yeah. Yes,
Is an acre 660 by 660?
an acre? No.
Is that how
Oh,
that-
God, I should know this from school.
660 rings a bell for some.
That's a square mile, a section, let's see, a section of land is 660 acres, I think is where you get six.
Maybe that's what
But 660 feet is just such a random.
It's a
number. Is
block.
there a reason
It's
for
probably
it?
average block.
An
Yeah,
eighth of a mile.
Size.
so like, I guess our typical blocks are like 330, and so 660 to reach blocks on each side. Yeah, right. You go back to township range, all that, yeah. Cool. So this, a lot of this language was for internal purposes. If any of y'all have been to an EPC hearing, they are not recorded. And so, we literally have to get a written transcript every time, from EPC before we can hear a case. And so that adds about a 2-month timeline on for the applicant to go through the process. And so they'll go through EPC, either get a denial or if they get an approval, EPC is our Environmental Planning Commission, apologies. And so if they get an approval, before council can get it onto an agenda, whether it's committee or right to full council, we have to wait for a company to transcript the whole meeting. And if you've ever been to an IDO annual update, those can be 8 to 9 hours long sometimes. So it takes a really long time to get these transcripts. And so this is a way to hopefully get that timeline sped up internally and get those items moving a bit quicker. But yeah. Yes.
Is there anybody looking into using AI to take care of transcript?
The amount of times I
The newspapers are doing it in like 30 minutes.
well, the mind-blowing part is that EPC is held on Zoom and you can just record it. And we just don't.
And you can have, and you can use AI to transcribe the recording.
Totally. Oh, yeah.
It's pretty accurate.
Well, but if they're not recorded, official record shall be a recording of the hearing.
Right.
So is that? If it's not recorded, what's the recording?
The recording is the document.
The written record.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it is, yeah. We're working on a little more
Audio
efficiency,
recording.
hopefully.
I say go back to chisel and hammer.
Right?
Really make this fun.
Gotta get the skilled labor back in here. Like fun stuff. So, this was basically originated, this new language, the applicant failed to comply with notice requirements for neighboring property owners, except that failure to notify a neighborhood association is not sufficient grounds to uphold an appeal or remand a decision for further consideration. Again, not a counselor, but oftentimes we have heard from a developer that they forgot to send not forgot, or maybe they forgot sometimes, but also oftentimes they literally just missed the property on the Excel sheet that our Office of Neighborhood Coordination provides. And then we've had to redo notification and push a application down the line. And that has also been used to appeal certain cases to the LUHO. And this is making clear that that cannot be for neighborhood association notification. But yeah, not a counselor. Appeals cost. I should note that this to delete this whole section went through our land use planning and zoning committee last night and did pass at committee and will be on this day. Not next week's agenda, but the second meeting in March. So what this states, basically what I think is the most pertinent language, for an appeal to the LUHO related to an application that was approved, If the appellant loses their appeal, they shall be responsible for paying responsible costs, including attorney's fees of the appellee. Finding on the reasonableness of proposed costs shall be made by the LUHO. When I say, sorry, I should trying to make sure I capture all the acronyms. LUHO is Land Use Hearing Officer, and that's where all the appeals go and who does the recommendations of findings to the city council for final decision on an appeal. So what this is essentially saying is that any person or association that files an appeal for a development application, if they lose that appeal, they are responsible, they could be, up to the LUHO, responsible for, of course, their own attorney's costs as well as the developers or applicants' attorney's costs as well. Those numbers can be pretty wild. This idea originated from a statute in Colorado that is still very much held up in court right now. So if you are curious about this language, disagree, agree with it, go to the next council meeting after next Monday. Patty can vote. So.
Well, you say could be, yet that says shall be.
Shall be responsible
Shall
for
be
paying
responsible.
responsible costs, including attorney's fees.
Right.
A finding, so I think it's up to the LUHO to determine what is reasonable. If I don't know what
If they lose.
that would even go
If
through.
they lose it, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what findings, what facts he would use to determine the costs that the appellee should pay. And I know our LUHO does not wish that upon himself by any means. So yeah, it'll be a really interesting conversation in a few weeks for sure. All right. So it should be known that within the city charter, city council is deemed our ultimate land use hearing committee decision makers. And so they have not had to adhere to the IDO process in the past, and recently in the last few years, this has been made very evident by certain items being brought forth. But within the IDO, it does state that the correct process for submitting an amendment to the IDO must go through our environmental planning commission, but city councilors generally have not been sending their amendments or different ordinances related to land use to the EPC. It just comes either straight to committee or straight to council. And that is protected by the charter, but our councilors wanted to make that very clear through this amendment. Any questions? All right. So, right. Thought I was going to get through this presentation faster. Apologies. Small mapped areas within the IDO are very specific geographic boundaries that have different regulations put upon them. Some simple examples would be character protection overlays. You'll see this in a lot of our historic areas of town, as well as historic protection overlays. But essentially the whole idea is to cater to the existing pattern and fabric in that area and to try and replicate that through development to not be as dramatic of a change in architectural style, landscaping, height, etc. Depending on your type of overlay that is there. For a city councilor to propose a small mapped area, there's been some confusion at the district court level as to whether a city councilor can be unbiased within this decision. And so this language is trying to clarify that a city councilor who presents their own small mapped area amendment or proposal, that they can take the vote, because essentially if you can prove biasing, then you have to recuse yourself at a vote. We see this when if a counselor has a development application in their neighborhood or something that affects their life, they typically should recuse themselves. Similar idea, but I think it's an interesting conversation to have because oftentimes historically, counselors have brought small mapped area amendments forward for neighborhood associations or by request of a resident within their district. And so it brings into the conversation of what is democracy if you're not representing the people in your district and you have to recuse yourself from that vote. And so it becomes like a kind of awkward balance, but within district court, the judge ruled that a counselor is inherently biased when it comes to a decision within their district. And so that is still getting worked out in our upper courts, but our counselors wanted to make clear that they should still be able to vote when it comes to a decision within their own district. Or a small mapped area, which is generally in their own district. Yes.
And yet, you can't have a conversation with your counselor about anything that's in a small mapped area because it's a quasi judicial thing instead of a citywide legislative thing. So
Quasi judicial is essentially when the council is going to be a final voting body on something that ex parte communication is not allowed. And that, to Patty's point, can be really frustrating to residents who are just trying to voice their opinions. And on the other side, it also means that a counselor cannot talk to an applicant if it is a zone change or a new development. And so it's a double-edged sword in many ways that has only gotten more complicated over the last couple of years. All right, that was it. Sweet, cool. If you're interested in any of the maps, the planning website, etc., my email, ABC to Z project will get you the long range planning team who also deals with the IDO and the comprehensive plan at the city. Please take a picture of this, call me, shoot me email questions, whatever, explore the websites. I think I'm more crystal clear than a city's website, but we are trying to make it better. And yeah. But any questions or conversations on kind of the topic tonight? Also, thank you all for being great and kind. Yes.
Will this presentation be on any of those websites?
It won't be on that website. Did Michaela send the presentation after the last one?
I think she did. Yeah.
Okay. I can send Maria the presentation and she can kind of send it out to the listserv as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, y'all. That was smooth. Yeah.
Good to not count.
Thank you.
There was a lot of confusion around what this was.
So,
Around.
I believe it.
Yeah, there was a lot of confusion.
oh, big
And I
time,
think there
yes.
still is.
Yeah, and
So,
if you don't know the backstory, this was very much rushed through council. No prior notification, no letters to neighborhood associations. It did not go through committee. And so it was, and also around the holidays too. So there's a lot of frustration around how this got through and, yeah, so I get it. I understand it.
From
Yeah.
city administration.
It came from council, purely.
Came from council. From council.
The sponsors of the bill were Councilor Baca and Councilor Lewis. So,
Wow.
yeah.
I was told by Michael Voss that he had a 24-hour heads up before it was introduced in the letter of introduction on December 16th to be voted on for final action 3 weeks later on January 6th. After the meeting, I'll give you the elevator speech.
Well, my girlfriend appreciates the quick conversation. It's dinner.
great. We can.
Thank you all. It was nice meeting everyone.
So What we're gonna do next, thanks, we wanted to get Matt on his way as soon as we could. But let's go ahead and take a look at our updates. And so let's just start first with, since our commander is here, the APD stats. So that's the multi-pager. And if you want to just take a sec and take a look at it and let us know if you have questions or things that you want to bring to the management. And then we'll be able to let him go if he needs to, because you never know if there's.
One of the things, though, while you guys are looking at that, I've been in the position now for 7, almost 8 weeks. When we came into this transition, switching, moving Major Langwood up to oversee all of the hot priorities that transcend area commands, and I came in to run this area command, was how are we going to make a difference? And one of the things I did was a zero tolerance implementation, right? So what does that mean? Because that gets misconstrued all the time. What I mean by that is we're always trying with outreach. We're working heavily with our partners from HHH to ACS to solid waste to encampment team to code enforcement. We're always trying to get those resources out to especially the at-risk populations and the unhoused populations. Having said that, my job is to provide security in the Southeast Area Command to all residents of Southeast Area Command. So if you do not take services, you continue to break the law. My officers are instructed to enforce the law. If that's citation, it's citation. If that's arrest, that's arrest. Based on that, we are in our 4th week in a row for the first time in probably a year. Ag assaults down 20%. Sex crimes down 27%, robberies down 38% year to date. Property crimes, auto burglaries down 65%, burglaries down 19%. The only thing we are up over the last 6 weeks year to date from January 1st to today, so 8 weeks, is shoplifting, and that's up by 2, 9 to 11. Those shopliftings are something I've reached out to our organized crime unit to start addressing with those 2 stores that are the main culprits, the AutoZone and the Dollar Tree, Dollar General off Lomas. So we'll work through those problems. This is not going to be the solution. This is just the start of the ball. The solution is kind of why I come to this meeting and why I'll make sure to have a lieutenant here going forward if I can't make it. Because what we're doing here, and that's one of the questions I have, Maria, because I was talking about you at one of our local shelters yesterday, one of the heads of ministers over there. And one of the things I have for you guys is there's a lot of misinformation about what the Gateway Center is doing, can doing, and will do one day in the future. There's a lot of misrepresentation when the press conferences go, when things are being said. They're not intentional, but we talk about the Gateway Center and all the media for the last 5 years has been this location when really we're talking about West Side. Also, the other thing is the educational campaign to our unhoused and to our at-risk populations. Right now, I know the great work Maria Wolf's done. I know what the West Side Shelter has been transformed into in probably what, 14 months? Yeah, 12 months.
Like seriously, we started in April of last year.
But every stakeholder I talk to that deals in some way, shape, or form with shelter, feeding, aiding the unhoused and the at-risk, all of my unhoused that I deal with, all the reports back from my officers is the West Side Shelter is still nothing but a hotbed of crime and we get victimized there. So what are we doing to change that in the media and out to the streets as well through our outreach? And I think for some of the groups in here that go out like my man Mike and deal with the homeless, have you gone to West Side yet, seen the changes and be able to relay that back to the unhoused? Because the more I can get to take services, the better security my officers can provide to this neighborhood and to this area command. So that's kind of where we're at. If there's exact numbers here you want me to talk about, I can for what's going on around the Gibson Public Safety District or the half-mile buffer. We understand we have some encampments and some other stuff that are popping up. One of the things we're working on, Sandra, is I have my officers doing random throughout the week checks in the morning and the evenings with the walking school bus. We're in the middle. We just launched a new project with Emerson Middle School or Elementary and Van Buren Middle School from the meeting on Tuesday, the layered rapid response. We're going to have ACS out. We're going to have solid waste out. We're going to have encampment out, doing all of the outreach with backup for enforcement. And then my officers are instructed, whether it's my PRT, problem response team, as I like to call them, or proactive response team, and my field service bureau squads, field briefings in those locations, field briefings at the parks, spot checks, proactive work, writing their reports in those neighborhoods, being an overt presence. One of the things we're going to be doing too is increasing that with our parks, especially Wilson. I have not seen a problem really at Wilson with the unhoused sleeping and staying in it, especially since we put the fence up. However, we did have an incident last week with the shooting there. Because of that, and because the victim is stating that he believes it was two unhoused that were sleeping in the park that then had a domestic issue. Video's kind of hard with the cameras we have there to say if they actually were staying there or if they were walking through. Either way, all my officers have been instructed to give Wilson its due attention again, along with all the other parks in the area. We're about to start a new crime initiative along the I-40 corridor. That's going into a lot of the different problem response teams from the different area codes, our open space, our investigative bureau, and our motors division. And all that is going to be is, again, another zero tolerance south of I-40, north of I-40, because what we've done is there's been some success on Central. If you've driven it, yes, I understand we have a long way to go, but if you saw Central beginning of December and November to what it looks like now, we're having success. We put the prostitutes that were overtly out there, you know, pasties, underwear, that they're not out there. The open air drug use, they're now trying to hide and move. So now what do we have to do? We have to make sure they don't set up in your neighborhoods. So for right now, the first thing will be off I-40, and then I'll move that over to the Gibson neighborhood. We're going to be doing a very big wrap up here next month off of Anderson and San Pedro area to really focus on this area. So those are the things we're doing. What I need from you guys is better understanding of what I can tell people the Gateway East, the Gateway Gibson does. And then how do we educate the unhoused as to the changes at Westside to now they know they can't take pets, they can feel safe, they can go somewhere.
I had asked about being able to simply go over and look at it, and I was told that, no, you can't do that. So I signed up to build bunks, and that's, most of my time was focused on doing the bunks as opposed to looking to see what it's like. But I've considered pretending to be homeless and just let myself be taken over there so I can experience it for a night. It would be helpful.
And
to
again,
be able
this
to get more people to see what it's like so that we can counter some of those.
and that's why I posed the question here, because I don't know about these things that go on in these policy stuff that doesn't allow for visitation. And again, remember, we're taking unhoused individuals to where we're telling them they're somewhere safe. Part of that is privacy. No one wants somebody coming into your bedroom and seeing what you're doing and how you keep your room and all that. So we got to still respect privacy, but we do need to educate better from what I'm being told over the last 6 to 8 weeks from my unhoused population and my shelter providers / outreach personnel that are like, hey man, no one wants to go there. They still think it's guaranteed they're going to get raped if they're a female. They're going to get their property stolen. They're going to lose their pet. They're going to blah, blah, blah. There's all these things that happened for years that now have been changed by the great work Maria Wolf's done, which I didn't even know you till a few months ago, but I'm one of your champions. Although you're going to get a lot of phone calls because I'm like, you call Maria Wolf. She's got the answers. But that's kind of what I wanted to come tonight with kind of some of my own selfish, what do we have going on?
Talking about the changes there on our website right now, and so I'll make sure that we get that link sent out to everybody.
Get the cards in about. We even get the cards in about.
Yeah, and there's just a quick scan QR code to access it, and then it's on the website as well. So we can get that out to the outreach teams too.
And then email it to me as well.
Well,
Email it to me as well, though, because I can get it to the private shelters, the private outreach groups. That way they can have it so they can either show it to the unhoused, or if the unhoused have phones, they can scan it themselves and see like, hey, this isn't a bad idea. Again, I don't know how we change it. I've had some conversations with partners from other cities, from other states. Nationwide, we're pretty much still stuck at a round number of 1 in 5 take services. If we got that to 1.5 out of 5, the astronomical change here would be unmeasurable. And so I'm going to do my part on the law enforcement, and I'm going to ride my officers like a jockey and make sure they're doing their part, because all I do is work. I've been up since 3 this morning. I will not go to bed till probably midnight, and I do that 7 days a week. I just work. That's all I know how to do. I'm not smart. I'm not educated. I'm sure as heck not a full bird. I just work. And so I'm going to work for you guys. But these are the things that I have questions about.
Thank you.
Start with Sandra.
Yes, so you know that we do the walking school bus on Fridays and Mondays, so tomorrow we're going out. would it be possible for us, because we always take pictures of the encampments there, and sometimes there's a fire, and sometimes, people are doing. Their drugs, and trying to keep the kids just keep walking and trying to. Would it be helpful if we could take some pictures and send it to, I don't know, whoever the officer in charge of doing that, of the PRT, or
Well, that
who
would
would I
be
be
me.
able?
That'd
that
be
would be
me.
you?
Send me the pictures all for him. I'm actually texting my PRT sergeant right now to let him know, remind him about tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, we just do it as we're walking, don't stand there and take pictures, yeah, so it's. Obviously, we have to get the kids to school safe and everything, and that's our priority, but sometimes from like a block away, you can see what's going on, and you can take the picture, so.
Send him, yeah, send him.
Just so you guys know as well.
Sorry, ladies first.
Sorry, I'm with the sheriff's office. We are doing community walks twice a month as well. And so we are setting up along the central corridor. Right now, we've been told not to come southeast, so you won't see us this way, just due to the different routes that are happening.
You're gonna call John? Me and John were SWAT together years ago. I'll be like, hey, John, man, why you keep people from helping me?
They're doing the Route 66 op now,
Yep.
so they're asking us to stay clear for now.
Yep.
But we're doing it. We are setting up on the central corridor twice a month. We have been trying to influence people to go to the West Side Shelter again, like I said, the last time we were here. We have seen improvements and we're trying.
Good.
So we're willing to help as well. I don't know if you guys have, maybe we can connect if you have outreach that.
Yeah, our best outreach is probably Walter or Jody over at ACS, because they're the ones who are out doing what you guys are doing.
With Walter.
We're actually gonna partner with Walter in March, where he's gonna give us 4 ACS people a couple times a week to go out with PRT and do some of that outreach on a daily basis. So I'll definitely, you can give me your card before I leave, or get in touch with, give it to Maria Wolf, that way I can get in touch with you.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that all works, and make sure that Walter knows you're another resource we can use.
Yeah, I met with Walter, so I'll reach out to him.
Perfect.
People
Sir.
said They're seeing the change just over the year.
And I know it takes time.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're getting it out. And the other thing is I'm not blind. I've been doing this a long time. Our unhoused that don't want help are going to tell us whatever they want to tell us to stay a victim mentality, but not get bugged. So I completely understand that too. I just want to be able to tell my officers, hey, the word's out there. These are all the different ways they can learn about the word. And then we go from there. Yes, sir.
2 nights ago, just north of Whittier, at 4:55, I heard like a dozen shots over in the Whittier area, and then I was talking with a neighbor, chatting with a neighbor outside, and about 10 minutes later, to the northwest was another dozen shots, and I was looking for some kind of report on it, and I didn't see anything, so I'm wondering, are you
So-
aware of it?
So no, I'm not. I will, after this meeting, I'll pull a shot spotter data and see when those things happen. I do know, where's Whittier exactly?
It's right off of Catherine.
Yes, that's what I thought. So I'll pull that one, and then on the other one, I'll pull as well, because I know that we had the shooting at Wilson, that was 10 rounds. And that came up on a shot spotter, and that got tied to that shooting incident.
When was it?
Wilson was last Friday.
This was night before last,
Okay,
on the 25th.
I'll pull the data and look into it. The one thing I will tell you is,
And
right,
then one of the sorry for
No, you're-
interrupting, one of the helicopters orbited.
Yep.
For a little while, and then it went away, but the shots were long gone.
yes. So one of the things that we're doing with the shot spotter, just so you guys are aware, and this was actually my baby, I developed and changed all this over the summer. Shot spotter is a great technology. It's piecemeal around the city right now. We are working towards funding to completely blank the city, and I'm sure you know about this, sir. It's all through triangulation of noise sound waves. Stuff that's been used by the military for years. It's very accurate. What we did when we originally implemented was everything was a priority 1 or a priority 2. So if there's a shot spotter activation, and then there was an accompanying call if somebody was hurt, it was a priority 1, we had to send everyone. If there was a shot spotter activation and had more than a certain amount of rounds, it's priority 1, we had to send everybody. If there was a single round with no accompanying call, it was a priority 2, we still had to send 2 officers. We were destroying our response times. We were destroying the ability to help people with their real, like right now, I need something. So I changed it. So right now, if there are shots with no accompanying, we call it a 39, but a disturbance, people calling and saying they're injured, whatever it is, the helicopter's up, it'll check the area. It gets put into what's called a priority 3 or 4, and then a single officer can check the area. If there's something else there, then they can call for more resources. The company call comes in, somebody's injured, somebody's house is shot, it'll change the priority and amplify it. So in this case, if you didn't see the report and all that, I'll look into it, but more than likely it was a low priority and it just got a CAD. And then when the officer checked it 5-6 hours later, whenever he was able to get there, or the CS checked it, they just add notes to the CAD. Yeah, we found casings, they were collected, tagged as evidence for NIBIN testing, or no, nothing was found. No other calls were generated. So a report's not generated every single time now. But it's still documented through the tracking stuff here. So like your shot spotter says how many activations and everything within the citywide for this last reporting period that we did, 1 month to 1 month.
Well, I feel like something was going on, or they wouldn't have dispatched the helicopter, but the helicopter was dispatched probably 20 minutes after the shots were done.
And so if it's 20 minutes, A, could take a while. But B, more than likely, it was not a priority, not a high priority. We need to get officers there right now. And the helicopter went in between whatever else it's doing in the city. It was like, I'll go over and check, see if there's anything that we need to rush officers to. We are trying to launch that drone program. Hopefully by May, we're gonna have pods of drones. We just got our authorization from the airport to have on-line of sight drone flight, which is very hard. I think Kirtland helped us with that a little bit. That was definitely a big win. Now we're looking for the funding and the drone buyout to build what's called independent pods that on any priority call, so 1 and 2, we can get a drone up within 15 to 20 seconds over that site. So whatever it takes the cops to get there, there's already sites on recording it, watching it, tracking what's going on. That is going to be a game changer for our officers and a force multiplier. We're hoping for a May launch. I will tell you, just because I believe in transparency, we will probably only have the funding with everything going on for like 1 or 2 pods in our hottest spots. So Southeast will get one, probably Northeast or Valley, depending. And then as we get funding, we'll build out more pods. But there will come a point, just like ShotSpotter will come a point, where we'll have citywide coverage with drone deployment. And I will tell you, from a guy who used drones 17, 18 years ago in Iraq, I love them. They are a game changer in the battlefield, but they're a game changer in urban environments and law enforcement. And they save lives.
So where do the drones live?
Can't tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I could tell you, but my
Okay.
top one, I'd have to tell you.
But 10 to 15 seconds, you said.
Yes, because they're going to be remote operated and flown from our real-time crime center on the west side. So as soon as that comes in, they'll find the closest drone, activate it, send it up, and get it.
Right, that's when there's more drones available.
And they'll be remote controlled. So instead of me trying to call for an officer that's certified and trained and get him there with the drone and launch it, they'll be able to remote launch it from the RTCC, which is the real-time crime center on the west side. That's all I have, guys. If there's questions, ask away, or if we need to get moving, I will hang out, because the only thing I'm waiting on is green chili stew at home.
So really quick while you're here, if I may, one of the newest developments in the city is me. And I am the homeless public outreach volunteer coordinator. So I'm happy to connect. I know I've met Ms. Tara over at our works. I know that I'm working with our internal sites to develop a program to be applicable, helpful, constructive, and supportive of the work that we have. And so I know that part of the information piece for the community is about what's available at Gateway West. Have you ever heard the phrase, have you eaten an elephant? One bite at a time. And so how are we going to make a difference? That's one person at a time. I literally cried today because there was someone here that I got activated, right? They're here, they asked for help, I'm experiencing homelessness. Okay, well, if I'm so well informed and getting connected to resources that are even beyond our own department, I should be able to react to that. And so I took a moment with her and I shared a publicly available phone list. And I let her know, you know, there's a day shelter there over at Hopeworks, and they have transportation available to our West shelter. And the reassurance that she needed was there. The information that she needed was publicly available, but just with the right amount of effort and interaction with them. And I went on an outreach event today to let people know about job opportunities as a Better Way Forward program. She recognized me and she was safely staying on Gateway West.
Awesome.
And so one person at a time with the information we have available, with the services that we're all working together to provide. I think that's really what's going to make a difference here. Sorry. But I'm here. I know all of you are here. I'm getting to know you in your different capacities, roles, and services, and also your advocacy. And I just want to acknowledge that, how important that is. So nice to meet you. Connected with the group, and I'm happy to be here.
And Ilan is that way that if you want to see West Side, you can volunteer. We don't do tours. Sorry, Mike, you want to spend the night? You know, we don't turn people away. It's a low barrier shelter. So you're welcome to spend the night if you need
I
to.
mouth off
But
to my
not in the
wife,
winter time when you
and
need to
I
receive
need
all
a
that.
place to stay.
But
Go to
yeah.
the couch first.
Yeah, so, but we do really have a policy that we don't do tours. We really, do require, you to come as a volunteer if you want to see what's going on.
Kind of on that note, and we've been talking about tonight, trying to really reinstate and build that trust around Gateway West. Hopeworks is one of the big drop off and pickup sites. So most of my clients are also clients of Gateway West. I would say at least 50%, if not more. And how does that no tours policy also translate to providers? Because it's hard for me to instill that trust when really I haven't seen Gateway West. And most of the things that I've heard are not, but it's hard. They're not positive. Sometimes they're mixed and it changes every day. But I would love to be able to see it and interact with, you know, the site a little bit more since I have so many people I'm referring there.
So you do outreach and you coordinate outreach for Hopeworks. And we have other outreach people who definitely are there. What we do when somebody is providing services and working with us is we have clear MOUs with that group. And they're not going to be wandering the halls, but we definitely will make sure that they understand what's going on there. So you guys don't know, but the city, for all of our partners, we have monthly partner meetings. And we have those at different locations throughout the city so that everybody gains more familiarity with what's going on across the whole continuum of care. So we've had it a couple of times here so that they could see the new services coming on board here before people were in them. And then we're having the next one at Healthcare for Homeless. We'll have the next one at Steelbridge. And then, anyway, so we have them at different places so that the providers, and I'm sure we will have one at Gateway West at a point in the near future. We obviously do have walkthroughs for people who have provided funding for us and they want to see what their funding paid for. So I want to donate or not, but I'm talking about like legislators and city councilors and county commissioners who have allocated specific funds and want to see that it got used appropriately. The only other thing about Gateway West that I do want to make sure you all know is that we have a new provider there. They just got there in middle of the holidays in December. Bless their hearts. What a terrible hard time to take over a new facility right smack in the middle of the holidays. But they really are working hard to get new policies, clarity, and they are really reaching out to other providers to bring them in. We call it playing well in the sandbox together, and we're seeing a lot of positivity in terms of figuring out how to bring in, of all things, what's in my head right now is some volunteers to help people train their pets so that they don't get removed from shelter when their dog misbehaves and attacks another dog or a person. So, I mean, it's something you just don't think you have to plan for, but we do. And so we're working on all of those different elements and getting more help out there. We are averaging over 600 people a night. So a lot of people are staying. During the cold spell, we were over 700 people. And so recognizing that a lot of people are coming in is a big part of it, but also we're working on connecting and making it so that when they come into West Side, they are getting that connection to service and actually see value of going there to get connected. And so we're working on those transitions as well. So,
Maria, did you say the name of the provider?
Their acronym is CPLC, and it stands for Chicanos por la Causa, and they're out of Arizona, and they have experience with large shelters, Arizona, Texas, and
They've had an office here in Albuquerque.
Nevada. Yeah, they've been. I mean, they've had their presence in New Mexico since like the 60s, but a lot of their shelter work has been in other states previously. So, okay, so that's sort of the Gateway West update. Gateway Center update is we are celebrating because our respite center has its first patients this week.
True, yes.
So, for those of you who don't know, in the past, hospital, you were ill, you had pneumonia, you had a broken leg, you had a laceration in your leg. You were exited to the streets or to Gateway West. And, you know, Gateway West is not a nursing facility. It's not, and this isn't a skilled nursing facility, but it's a place to go to help recover. The way that, Jenny Metzler, the head of healthcare for homeless, who is one of our medical providers for this, as part of their street medicine certification. The way that she describes it is when she was sick recently, went into hospital, had a procedure, came out, was not ill enough to be in the hospital, but when she got home, her family and friends cooked for her. They drove her to her follow-up appointments, do therapy, and then her bathroom was like right there, right? Gateway West, where's the bathroom? It's like at the end of the lobby for each of the dorms, right? You don't have somebody, you're providing meals, but it's not the ideal environment to recover from illness. And so we often have people who are released to Gateway West, then they go back in the emergency room very shortly thereafter and end up readmitted. So we're trying to break that cycle and have a healthier recovery space. So we'll have 50 beds here for recovery. So we're really excited about that. Then we also have just finished the RFP timeframe for people to submit proposals to be operators for 6 of our services that they're providing here. So the MINS Housing Navigation Center, the Sobering Center, the first responders. Also, we're getting ready to open our young adult shelter for 18 to 25-year-old and a new provider for our family shelter as well, or not necessarily new, but the proposals for the family shelter. All of those were in this pack of RFPs, kind of packed it all together to really try to get it all through the purchasing process, which is so. Okay, we will get an update to you guys. We're also prepping something that can more easily get distributed so that people better understand what's going on here and what's coming on more throughout the city. So Wally and Donna got to see the quick run through at the CPC meeting last week at Foothills. It was the Foothills one, or was it Southeast? No, it was Southeast. Sorry, it was Southeast. Yeah.
So Caesar.
It was at Caesar's.
Caesar Chavez.
Yeah, so we'll have more of those too. So. Okay, any other questions for our commander for this area or concerns that you have about the stats or something else that you have a question about?
How do you spell your last name?
RICHARDS, Richards.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we like to be plural in my family, so we don't have S.
Well, I'm really excited. Your number on the website, that's the one to get a hold of it.
I believe so, but I'll give it to you after this,
Okay,
unless you want it now.
no, you don't want to share.
No, I don't care. 50. This thing never stops. I was the tactical commander the last deal, so I'm good. 505-362-0997. That's my work one. If you call me after hours and it's not work, I will be grumpy. Otherwise, I'll always answer.
No,
And your email,
jrichards@cabq.gov. And I promise, they only ordered them 6 weeks ago. There will be business cards at some point, and I can just, give you those bad boys out, but
thank you.
you got it.
Did you?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I'm excited that, something's being done in our area. It sounds very positive and promising.
Well, we're gonna work hard.
Yeah.
I promise you,
Thank you.
I'm gonna get work
We
out of my
need, we
guys.
need some help, yeah.
And I'm fighting every day to get more resources and more people in here to help, so we'll keep doing what we need to do. Maybe the base won't tie up all my units. Craziness.
No promises.
Everybody's good though? How's your guy with his hand?
He's doing well.
Good.
Do I see the east and west?
No, just east. Ray Del Greco runs university. So he is west.
So west to San Mateo, down to the freeway.
I don't go that way. It's scary down there.
Yeah, where those shots were, it was scary.
And a reminder that if you do have shots in your area, go ahead and telephone report them. And if it's in your immediate vicinity, definitely report them, and they'll come and collect the cases for you.
It wasn't within eyesight, but it was within earshot.
It's still common.
And they were on the move, because the first volley was south of me, and the next 10 minutes later, it was north and west.
Yeah, the shot spotter screen from in front of my house a couple of years ago, they were going south at 13 miles an hour. I mean, I loved all the data.
I will tell you from running the gun unit and the gang team years ago when we got ShotSpotter, it is a great tool. We just have to always understand it's a tool.
Yeah.
Diving's a tool. The drones will be a tool. RTCC is a tool. Sometimes, how do I say this right? Sometimes people that fund these things don't understand their tools. They think they're the end all be all. They're tools, but they're good tools.
One piece of the overall. Yeah. Okay, great. So next, take a quick look at our 311. We don't, if you have questions, you can let me know, and I will take them back and take Carrie who provides this, but this gives an idea of the reports that have been going out on the items that you all talked about and requested. We've had these reports generated for about a year now, right, Doris? Didn't hash them out and only something like that. So hopefully this is giving you guys the information that you are needing on what's going on with both 311 and APP. ACS is the only group that we are not getting a specific response from, but a lot of the calls for service are coming through on the stats that you're getting with APD on that. I mean, they're kind of covered by both. So I didn't think you guys need something like that. When it comes to reporting what we're doing here, we have Robert. He is available and he distributed his report for what's going on at the Women's Housing Navigation Center.
Yeah, so it's the format looks like this. We'll have that. I know there were some questions last month, so I tried to make this a little more comprehensive. So I'll cut out some of the questions, just make it more explain itself. We served 100 people or 100 ladies last month. 54 of those were new intakes. Keep in mind when they come, they get 30 days initially, provided they follow expectations of the shelter. They're working with case management with the goal being permanent housing. They can be extended up to 90 days. So that's why you have some duplicate basically to carry over from December. The numbers here may not mean much to you out of context, but we had 8 permanently housed out of 50 exits. That's 16%. The number basically statewide is about 10 to 12%. So we're 60%, 25% above that. So I like to say it's working. Not always easy, and it can take 90, sometimes more, days to do it. And the question that we had last time was the no call, no shows, because someone had pointed out that the numbers didn't add up to the total 50. So 28 ladies basically just didn't come back. And something we don't know why. The big thing was the weather. We had much nicer weather. And so there were people who we had one lady literally tell us she was going to go stay at one of the state parks. She would rather do that than be in a shelter because that's then it's on their terms. And that's something that it can be difficult to wrap your head around. Why would you give up a shower, a bed, meals a day? Well, because some people want that independence, if you will, to do what you want. Some of the things you want to do are not healthy things. But we don't tolerate that in the shelter, whereas if you're out and about, you can. So I wanted to include that number. The age demographics I split up so everyone could see that. The length of homelessness before entering Gateway. Some of the numbers that kind of scare me, if you will, the 1 to 5, the 5 to 10, the 10+ years. How do we change that mindset? Because at some point, it's just circling from this shelter. You know, once they leave here, as long as they're in good terms, they can come back in 4 months. There will literally be people who will say, hey, Jane Doe, we'll see you in 4 months. Because I know they're going to go Gateway West, maybe Joy Junction, something, and just cycle back. Because for whatever reason, they're not willing to give up some of the habits, or they haven't made that choice to make that step to pursue normalcy again, is the way that I see it. We're still getting a lot of submissions from case managers. Keep in mind, clients cannot just call in themselves or go to the website, put their own name in. They have to go through a case manager. So we got 210 for the month of January. So if you think basically it's about 7 a day. Of that, we contact as many as we can. We did accept 70 people. Now you can say 70, 54 were actually new intake, 16 just never showed up. So for whatever reason, sometimes it's transportation, sometimes they just decide not to. And 100 of the submissions that we got were basically expired, or we cannot contact them. What happens is we put them on a wait list, and sometimes the only window that we can get in touch with someone is actually when they're in the office with the case manager. Well, if we're full, we have a wait list, we lose those people. They become ghosts, essentially. So that makes it a challenge. But we're certainly busy, full every day. We lose 1 person, 2 person, 5 people. We fill 1 to 5 sometimes within minutes. So any questions on anything that I have covered?
The 8 who went into permanent housing, does that mean they also found some employment and they're sort of on track?
In this case, this was fantastic. All 8 of them were self-pay. And I haven't seen that number before. So basically, they're earning their own money, they're paying themselves as opposed to a subsidy, Section 8, low income, anything like that. So I couldn't believe when I did the numbers and I thought, that's fantastic. So yeah, it was, whether that happens next month or this month, I don't know. But it's nice to see, and again, it's that normalcy where you see them come in, sometimes with no ID, nothing, build, take their steps, be a case management, get the job. First day you see them dressed up nice for an interview, and then they get the job, and then they have their first couple of weeks, and then the key is the first paycheck. Because if you go from nothing to, even if you make minimum wage, 80 hours, that's I don't want to say life-changing money, but it suddenly makes some very bad decisions with that. But they didn't, and they saved, and they did what they needed to, and they got the security deposits, and so it was a nice month to see all that.
So do you know how long they were here?
The bulk of them were knocking on 90 days. There were a couple of them were about 60 days. But they were sometimes people come in, everyone thinks homeless, unemployed. We have people come in from day one employed. They just, for whatever reason, they lost their place. And they didn't have enough money. Some people, you may be working, but you're not saving. So this gave them the opportunity to have a safe place to shower daily, to wash your clothes whenever needed, and be able to then get back on your feet. So.
When you say self-pay, did you include Section 8 in that?
No, they're making their money and they're paying. No Section 8, no subsidy, nothing.
Success.
Yes, yeah, it is. It was beautiful. That's the first time I've seen that many in 1 month. So.
And you said there were how many of those?
8.
8, and that was the 8 that.
Yeah.
Are in the
Well, yeah, and I checked it twice because I hadn't seen everything.
So we also have Katie here, and she's been working with us on our first responder receiving it. And so for those of you who don't know, we didn't used to have a place where an officer, a firefighter or medic or one of our ACS people could bring somebody if they were in crisis, right? In the middle of the night when all of the other shelters and programs are not open, the day shelters, there wasn't a place to take them. And so that was one of the big places that we needed to fill that gap in service. I always just remember, an officer coming to me and saying, last night at midnight, there was a dad with his 4-year-old in the transit center. And there was nowhere for him to go because the 2 shelters that would accept a father and child, he couldn't go back to them. So the officer paid for a hotel room, like for a couple nights. And so now we have the first responders drop off.
Yeah, I really like to think about it too as like a diversion program, and like, you know, otherwise, like a lot of people end up in jail, arrested, or, you know, in a hospital waiting room, you know, and because, you know, sometimes it's indicated they need medical attention, things like that. Other times it's not, and they're just being like, you know, this sense of, yeah, anyway, so it's an alternative place for people to go, like a safe place, you know, in an effort to also steer away from like criminalizing things like being unhoused and using drugs. And so, yeah, so I'm happy to answer any questions. I think I've shared a little bit about the program in the last few meetings, but there might be some new faces here too. But yeah, I think at this point, we've been open since June. I joined in July, and I think we've worked with over 600 plus folks. And so we're continuing to get like more and more referrals. There's definitely a little bit of a ramp up, but I think in the colder months, definitely be more and more. We have about like 15 people coming per night or so. We're, I think, hitting pretty close to that 15 capacity.
And about 90% of the people you get are coming through Albuquerque Community
Yes,
Safety.
most of them are through Albuquerque Community Safety, either through, like, I know they have their teams that do drive around the neighborhood and we'll find folks and pick them up. But then also I think we were getting some drop offs too through like the ACS winter transportation shuttle. So yeah, so I would say the vast majority of our referrals are coming through ACS. And yeah, we are kind of different from a lot of the other shelter sites in the fact that we do try to like reserve our spaces for folks that are doing that like overnight street outreach, you know, to be able to bring people here. So yeah, it's been hard. It's definitely tricky because like, you know, once people like find out about our site, they stay there, they're like, oh, like, how can I get back in? And so I think, yeah, it is. But I guess the intention of it has been, you know, for it to be a spot for first responders to be like, oh, you know, if they find someone, like you said, you know, we have for sure had a lot of folks who have, you know, connected with a responder at like a, you know, a Greyhound station or something like, and you know, if they miss their connection in the middle of the night, and you just sometimes you have instances like that too. So it is like really quick in terms of like we are just, it's like sometimes, you know, people will come in the middle of the night. Sometimes we'll take people between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. So sometimes people will come as late as like 5 a.m. and then, you know, we'll try to let them like rest for a little bit in the morning. But so we have overnight staff who do the admission and are kind of in charge of like the intake. They also do our screening calls because the first responders will basically like call our site and say, hey, I have someone I'd like to refer you. We ask them questions over the phone to see if they meet our admission criteria. We're also pretty low barrier, there's really not much for our admission criteria. We really will take pretty much everyone, but of course, if there are any like safety concerns or we think like it's maybe like if there's something medical going on or a psychiatric emergency, it's indicated they go to emergency or something, we'll try to, but instead, but we will really take the vast majority of our calls. You know, we don't have like a full kitchen, we don't have showers. There are certain things we don't have on our site because it really does kind of function like an emergency room in a way, but like in a shelter form.
It's a safe spot to get into their next bus. You have a question, Molly?
That receiving is here. I thought
Outside.
Terry from UNM was going to be doing receiving. What
So
happened?
UNM is the operator for the first responder receiving area here.
Okay, we haven't seen Terry in a while. You worked with him?
I did. Yeah. Previously, yes, I was on
Previously.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Terry
isn't
Terry.
running it now. Who's the person running the contract? It is you.
Katie and Dave.
I am like flying by the seat of my pants, like kind of interim helping to keep it running for the time being. Yes.
So first responders is one of the operations for the RFP. UNM stepped in to really get it started and get the SOPs and kind of get it going. And then we have responses on the proposals. Right now, it's one of that's set. We're working on those contracts now.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I emailed you about this. It made it sound like, they didn't like this, child gateway. I mean, you know, it's in the paper, UN and Health Sciences pulls out a paper saying, what's going on there?
You want to respond to that?
Like Maria said, we were able to do what's called an intergovernmental agreement contract, which allows us to move quickly. It allows us to sign a contract quickly and get services up and running. So even as a good partner for us, and we stepped in and said, we'll help you get the service up and running. They let us know that they want to step back from that work. They've given us sufficient notice for us to RFP. If RFPs take longer, it's up to 6 to 8 months for us to RFP and award a contract. So we'll be switching operators, but we'll continue to have the work.
So they're gonna stay. In
They'll stay until they get to June.
June, and then you'll have a new provider.
We'll have the operator.
Operator.
That way we don't have to shut down. We don't have to close services by we get a new contract.
Somebody told me that they weren't getting paid promptly. Is there any truth in that?
There's not truth in that. So I will be very blunt. Terry misspoke. That is why Terry is no longer a part of this program. There are stuff on those sides that you have a contract with the city, that we are working with taxpayer dollars. There are certain obligations that we don't just sign a check over to our operators. They have to report back to us. They have to show us employee time cards so that we can prevent fraud and misuse of funds. Those documents were not sent to us in a timely manner. And so now with Katie and the others in charge, we're getting that information so that we can turn the money over to those payments.
Yeah, none of the city contracts that our department is running are the kind of contract where we say, here's a couple of million, go do some good work. They're all reimbursement contracts where they do the work, they send us the invoice showing the work. They have to prove that they spent that money, that they hired those people, that they worked the hours, and then they get reimbursed. So I'll tell you that in our partnering meetings, we do get pretty consistent complaints that we require too much paperwork for their experience. So there's always that balancing place of making sure there's no fraud, waste, abuse, and getting people paid on time without too much paperwork required to get it. So it's always hard to be in that space of trying to create that accountability while still paying people avoid conflict. So I do spend a lot of time saying, where is that invoice and why didn't you get it? So it's part of what we end up having to run scrimmage on when something's going astray. And sometimes it's just like they're charging the wrong PO and somebody's like, I'm not approving overtime because I don't even know who John is. And I'm like, where's the contract? Who's hired John? And you know, it's just crazy when you track down stuff like that. But you're just making sure that it's not easy to misspend money because we don't have numbers.
There has been like, yeah, I definitely want to clarify. I think it's important to clarify, like the site is still going to continue. Like, so there, I know that with all these changes, like I realize that there's been a lot of like shifting recently. And I think there's been some like misinformation going around about like the site closing and not being open, you know, in the next few months. And that isn't true. I know you all like continue to, like, there will be another operator. It's just, there's like obviously a little bit of a transition. It's going to be running
And
at longer
there's some
term.
really strong staff there. I mean, Katie and Dave, and they come in the morning and they're like, okay, who's here? Who's got what issues? Who do I need to call to figure out the best placement for that person? And I mean, that's happening every single morning, 7 days a week. So
Are you trying to wind down?
Yeah, because it is
Beyond.
oh my gosh, it's 8:05, we're ending late.
That's-
You
Well,
should
And it's
have
not our
time
fault.
sheet.
That's
Yeah,
okay,
you know,
we're
it's
getting-
my fault, I'm sorry, guys. So we're gonna wrap up unless you have something burning on.
I wanted to, last month, we talked about the vacant lot up here off north. And I wanted to say I've continued to do my rounds and it has looked a lot better, so I don't have any idea who prompted that or why,
You did it by bringing it out and this.
and so you, yeah. But it still needs some attention from solid waste. Number one. Number two, yesterday I saw some people in there inside doing some surveying, Wage on Surveying Company. So I'm wondering if there's a plan for that city-owned property.
So you can go on the planning website now and look up what's there. That like, that's one of the changes that Matt was talking about, is that the
ABQ plan.
ABQ plant, there it is, yeah,
Oh,
Sam's
that's
here
it.
from code enforcement too, so. Yeah, so, and he covers this area, so part of the reason things are looking better is because you got people like Sam that are working on that private sector code enforcement part of it. And then there really has been a lot of targeted attention to this area. But I know we can still do better. We can do better on a lot of things, so we're gonna keep working on it.
No doubt, I mean, it's cleaner, but I still want,
They take the.
they wouldn't be
people
doing a
leave
survey
trash.
if there wasn't a plan, so what's going on?
Well, you know, part of it is on private property, the city employees can't go onto that private property to clean it up.
Well, it's outside the fence.
Is it
Well,
on
all
the
the-
sidewalk in the street?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
outside.
So
most
we're-
areas.
Most of the waste, solid waste is, but
Yes.
the surveyors were inside.
I just
thought
wanted
that
to
whole block-
welcome-
I thought Lovelace had donated that block to the city, so it's city owned at this point.
We'll double check it.
It is, that's city property.
Yeah. Just.
City
Hey,
property.
Wally,
Okay.
have you ever been on Kirtland University?
I worked there for like 20 some odd
You're
years.
very.
Oh, you probably know
I
each
think
other.
there's probably a lot of people though in our community that have never been on their Air Force base. It is really Albuquerque's Air Force installation. I want to invite each of you to come join us on the 31st of May and the 1st of June, where we're going to have an air show. We call it the Air Fiesta at Kirtland Air Force Base, and it is for you. It's free of charge. There will be multiple locations, I think up to 4 places that you can park and ride. So if you're concerned about the traffic getting in and out, we heard you last time we had an air show in 2019, that was a problem. So we've secured 4. There's a Mesa del Sol, there's up at the Expo Center, places you can park, and we will bus you onto the base. You don't need any credentials, but we do prohibit certain things from coming in the gate, just so you know. We'll clear you before you get on the bus, bring you in. We're gonna have F-16 demonstration team. We're gonna have Golden Knights jumping out. We're gonna have a special operations demonstration. I think you'll love it. Vendors out there. If you are a small business owner and you're interested in being a part of that, Eva Blaylock happens to be public affairs officer on our installation, and she will continue to bring information. I just wanted you to hear it straight from me. We're very excited and we welcome.
Can't have a fiesta without balloons, but the balloons and F-16s don't make.
That's right, that's right.
We had a couple.
It's a different fiesta.
That's what we told.
Yeah.
Done it over there.
Unfortunately, the sunset's so late, it's like 8:15. We looked into it, so we had a little struggle with the timeline.
Better in the winter anyway.
There you go. Thanks for letting me come.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank
Okay,
you
any
for
other
joining
final
us.
questions, James?
Yeah, so perhaps a little off topic, but there was a meeting last night at the fairgrounds, hosted by Bernalillo County to discuss the proposed redevelopment of the fairgrounds, and it was very well attended. Marty Chavez was there, Adrian Barboa. What kind of flabbergasted me was the amount of rage in the room. Oh my God. And it's mainly over the issue of homelessness. But it was a raucous event. Mark Chavez was getting shouted down, Adrian Barbeau, people were getting shouted down. He was yelling about, were you there, Jen?
I will.
Yeah, so correct me if I mischaracterize
Pretty
it.
Accurate so
Yeah.
far.
There were people yelling, well, if you move the fair, the homeless are just gonna invade from Central and take over our neighborhood. I mean, it was alarming. If I was a malign politician, I would have looked at that room and said, great, I'm in the next mayor's race. I'm just gonna take this rage and take over the city, or the state. I was totally ignorant about anything to do with the homeless, other than what I could see through my windscreen until 2 or 3 months ago, and then started plugging into this meeting and the IT count, various things, and learning a lot from Mike, who's a neighbor. There is so little understanding in the general community about what is going on. I learned a lot from the mayor's constructive conversations that I didn't know. But, you know, most people aren't doing what I'm doing, and the misperceptions and resentment and sense that nobody's doing anything, that it's just getting worse. Frankly, I think it's dangerous to the greater Albuquerque community. So I raise this because I think that the various organizations that are trying to, not just trying, doing good stuff, that needs to get out clearly and honestly to the public. And somehow there has to be a vision that leads to a solution, not just managing it. And I've had conversations with people from APD, and I think they sometimes feel like they've got one hand tied behind their back in some respects in terms of what they can do. But there's very inadequate awareness generally in the community about the whole scope of this issue. And I think every group has to maybe devote some time and effort to figuring out how to better communicate.
I think there's a lot to be said for that, and I really, this is a good conversation, but we really are past time, so it's 8:15.
Let's pick it up next time.
Yeah, and
Because
if
it is a
anyone has an
conversation.
idea about how they think this information should get out, send me an email, don't hesitate, and I will start collecting that information for the next meeting.
You want to have questions in advance?
Yeah, sure. Have questions in advance, I'm totally game for that as well. And, you guys had asked for, the new, encampment policy to get a presentation on that, and so we'll work on that for the next meeting as well for this group. But if you have ideas of other people who need outreach, just let us know. We'll get out for that.
Well, if I send you there are 2 other meetings, Wednesday the 5th in the evening, and Tuesday the 11th, all both on redeveloping
The
the
fairgrounds.
fairgrounds.
All right, great. Thank you
I'll
all for
get
your
that
patience.
info to you.
I'm
You
so
can
sorry
send it
for
out.
ending late. That's never my intent. So next time, I promise. on
It was
time.
just getting good.
We'll be in contact.